Hello everyone and welcome back to another C# Unity tutorial, and today we're going to do some more mesh generation, and we're going to do some pretty advanced stuff here. By using these things, you can theoretically make any building or static object. You can't really make bones and humans using this technique, but you can pretty much make any building with any kind of texture on it, and it will be fast because what we're going to do is we're going to create two different squares in one mesh, and then we're going to apply different textures on each of them. In fact, well, let's just create three of them, and then we're going to apply half of the texture on one, half the texture on the other, and then we're going to apply different texture on the different square, and moreover it will all be done in one material. Okay, so it should be really fast and optimized. Let's just get started. I've created an empty scene here. There's nothing much really, just a camera with this mesh generation component attached to it. I'm just going to remove it actually and create a new empty object and attach it to there, and we'll set it to 0, 0, 0, so the camera's got a nice view of it, and we're going to call it my mesh. So let's go in our script and start programming, actually, not scripting. Scripting is actually something else. First of all, let me create or add mesh filter to our object because we don't have one. Add mesh renderer, and since we can access the renderer by just typing renderer, we can't access the filter by just typing filter. So we need to create an object that we can point to it. So there we go, filter. Now we can just access our filter using this object. Okay, let's get to the mesh. So I'm not going to do some very complex stuff here. I'm just going to create. This might be a bit boring, so you might want to skip the video here. Just apply a bit because I'm just going to create some vertices. So the first one is going to be at the top. Actually, let's make it at the bottom left. So 91, 91, and 0. And the next one is going to be negative. No, it's going to be 1, comma, negative 1, 0. So bottom right. So bottom left, bottom right, and we're also going to do negative 3. Top right, which is going to be 1, 1, 0, and the last one is going to be the top left, which is going to be negative 1, 1, 0. Okay, now let's create our triangles. I know I just said 3 squares, but first let's just try and create one square, and then we can continue on from there. So I'm just creating these triangles, just hard coding them, and you can use a complex formula and stuff to create your triangles, maybe randomly generated mesh or something, but just for demonstration purposes we're just going to create a very simple square and see what the main difference is using this new method instead of using the old method. If you watch my previous mesh generation using C# tutorials. So let's continue. So we're going to do 0, 1, 2, and we're also going to do 0, 2, 3, and we're going to pass this data down to our mesh filters. Mesh vertices equals to vertices, and actually this should be the mesh. I don't know why I didn't put that in. And we're also going to pass down the triangles information. Triangles equals to triangle. Okay, this is going to be mesh, not mesh filter. So we're going to create a new mesh, pass down our data, and that should be it. It should just work after that. So let's go ahead and play and see what the results are. We can't see anything, no errors. Okay, that's because my triangles are opposite. Let me invert them. basically have to go counterclockwise, and I always go clockwise. I don't know, it's just a habit. I have to go going clockwise instead of going anti-clockwise. Even though I should go anti-clockwise, and that does make it go, or make it invert. So there we go, anti-clockwise negative z-axis and clockwise positive z-axis. So this is something you should bear in mind. Now we have this mesh, and we want to apply some material onto it. Okay. First of all, we are going to need some textures. In fact, we'll get the textures later on. Let's just concentrate on making 3 different squares. Now the way I would do this is, first square, just copy paste this 2 more times, and we can do 2 times that. No, not 2 times that, 2 plus that. And we can just copy paste this. Okay, the reason I'm doing 2, not 1, if you're wondering, is because negative 1 to positive 1 is 2. So it goes to negative 1, 0, and then 1. That's why it's 2. So yeah, basically. And then we're going to do 4 plus, because it goes up in 2, and that should be, we should really do 3 and 6, just so there's a little space and you can see more clearly what's happening. Okay, now let's go back. Oh, my recording software, I can't really see the top right, that's why sometimes I misclick, just in case you're wondering. Okay, so okay, oh, I forgot to create the triangles. That was a silly mistake. Here, let's just create them. So after 3, we're going to start with 4, 4, 5, 6 instead. It's 4, 6, 5, and it's going to be 4, 7, 6, I think. And then it's going to be, hold on, I'm just thinking, 8, 8, 10, 9, and 8, 11, 10. Let's try that out, shall we? Let's see. Okay, now 3 beautiful squares, as you can see. Perfect. Exactly what I want. Now, if you can see, I grouped my triangles in a, well, in like pairs of 2, and those correspond to each of the square, and that is what we're going to use to tell the material what it should have. Now, first of all, we actually need to tell it something called UV mapping. And what UV mapping is, if you go to open paint, UV mapping tells the image, or tells the mesh, what part of the image it is on. So in UV mapping, the 0, 0 position is the bottom left of the image. The 1, 1 is the top left, and all of the different values is the, or all of the like 0.5, 0.5 would be the exact middle. So this is how it works, and the values between 0 and 1 are basically in between here inside the image, and you can pretty much tell any part of the image what to do using this. The reason why we don't actually use pixels is because, for example, if you want to update the texture to be more higher quality, so right now it's 800 times 600, and what if you wanted to upgrade it to, let's just say, 1920 times 1080, then you would have massive problems and you need to reprogram most of your code to make sure it works. But if you use this system, 0, 0, and 1, 1, then you won't need to do anything, and the mesh should automatically figure out which part of the image belongs to what part of the mesh. And we need to actually supply the coordinates for each vertex we put in. So we're not going to notice much difference unless we have some textures. So I'm going to go ahead and search for 2 cube textures. online. So we have some awesome textures. Actually, I really like the companion cube, so why not we go ahead and take one of the companion cubes texture, and we will get another texture. I want something like this because we don't want to do too advanced stuff. This is just a little bit too advanced for our taste. Maybe you can experiment. Oh, where did it go? Maybe you can experiment with this later on once you're done. But right now I just want plain texture. So for the companion cube, we're going to have to cut this out. Okay. Now where did the other one go? This one. That one I liked because we won't have to do anything. Okay, there is our downloads folder, and if we can copy it to Unity, here we go. We have a wood texture, and we also need this one, companion cube, and we should call this. I should call this cube because the other one's called wood. So we can put this here, and if we show an explorer, and we can edit this. Now let's just edit this so we only have this. Okay. Oops, I meant to do Control Shift X. There we go. And we only have our square. Now we have two textures we want to apply. First of all, let's create a material. Okay, so material, and we will call this material mesh material. We'll just call it that. And we need to create another material. By the way, when I said two materials, I actually meant, when I said one material, I actually meant two materials using different textures, and then we're going to just apply it on the same mesh render. That's what I meant. In fact, let's do wood material, and we can do cube material, cube material. Okay, now we need to apply this, and we need also to apply this. Now we're going to pass down obviously our materials. We're just going to get a materials array, to be honest. So public materials and mats. I'll just call it mats for short. And here we can do render.material. And remember, we're not using material because we're using more than one material. So we're going to have to do materials equals to mats. And this should work. Yay. Okay, now before I continue, I should point this out. You cannot change one material from the array. So if you do .0 and then apply it to new material, it will not work. You have to change the entire array, just like with the vertices. You have to change the entire array. Okay, so let's create two. We're going to add the cube, and we're going to add the wood. Now, if you play, let's see what happens. Okay, now if you can see, first of all, our shader wants texture coordinates, but it doesn't have them, and our shader wants normal coordinates, and it doesn't have them. And I'll tell you what normals is. See how I rotate and the light shines on it? That basically normals tell it how much the light should shine, and basically, yeah, that's it. How much the light should shine and which way your object is facing. Now, let's first of all create some normals for our object. And normals are vector3, array vector3 normal. So new vector3. And normals are pretty easy to create because we're not really doing some complicated stuff. We only have three different faces, and all of them are pointing the exact same way. So we should be able to get away with just a bunch of copy paste. So our normals are facing in the -c direction. I'll tell you how this works. Your normal is always right angled to your face. So it is going to be facing in this direction, which way I am pulling the squares, which is the -z. reset this. So negative z. What we have to do is new vector 3 and 0, negative 1. That's all we have to do. And we have to do a bunch of copy paste. We have to do exact number of vertices we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have 3 of those. 4. Okay, now I'm just going to remove that. And there is our normal set. Now we can go ahead and apply these normals. Dot normals equals to, there we go. We can actually apply the normals before the triangles. I usually like to do triangles at the last because that's where our object actually gets rendered. Okay, now if we look, our objects are looking pretty good. It has some nice lighting and it doesn't do some weird effects. Also, one of our errors is gone. Now we have to apply some texture coordinates to tell the mesh which texture applies where. Okay, now to do that, what we have to do is we have to do vector 2, and we're going to do UV. It's called UV, so new vector 2. Vector 2. Okay, now first of all we are getting the bottom left of the image, so this is going to be 0, 0, oh, it's vector 2, 0, and then for the next one is the bottom right, so it is 1, 0. Next one is 1, 1, as you guessed, vector 2, and the top left is going to be 0, 1. Okay, now as I said, we're only going to apply a part of the image to one of the cubes or squares. So we're going to do 0.5, and remember the f for float, 0.5, unless you're doing doubles for some reason. Oh, not 4, 5, just 5. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to just move this up so it's on the exact same, it starts on the exact same page. It just makes it really easy to read, and it's just a lot more neater that way. So for the next one, we are doing the opposite. We are going to start from 0.5 f, and we are going to do 0.5 here as well, because we're starting from 0.5, the middle, and we're going to go the whole way 0.5 here. Oh, actually, I need to do this. There we go. Oh, I forgot the f. That's why. So this goes to be 1 and 1. We can actually do 1.0 if you really want to. Okay. Now, the next cube, I told you that the last one what we're going to do is apply a different material on it. So we're just going to go ahead and do 1. So this is the next material we're going to do. Oh, this is just 0, sorry. Okay, so now we just need to send our UV coordinates that filter.uv equals to UV, and that is as simple. Oh, I think it is called UV0 maybe, mesh.uv. Oh no, it's just UV. There's also UV1 and UV2 if you have more than one UV coordinates, but we're only going to use 1. Okay, we're just not going to use the rest. Okay, so as you can see, our cube looks pretty good. The bottom left part of the image is applied on the very left one. Top right part of the image is applied on the middle one. And hey, this is not right. The whole image, the whole first image, the wood material is applied on the last one, but we want the portal's cube, the companion cube. Okay, now to tell the image that we want the companion cube, we have to do is a bit tricky. we have to use a different method. We can't use this way of setting triangles. Okay, now you are going to have to forget this way. This was the easier way. Now we're going to have to tell it which triangle group belongs to which texture or which material. That's why I grouped mine up. So these two are just belong to the first one, and this one belongs to the second one. Now the way we do this is, what we do is first, in fact we're not going to do it here. I just cut this and paste it here because we're going to do the rest of the coding here. Okay, now filter.mesh.submesh count, and you have to set it to how many groups you have. Right now we only have 2 groups because this actually is just one group, because it's only going to get one of the textures, both of these squares, but the last one is going to get a different texture, so it's going to have 2 groups. You have to tell it how many groups it has before you can do this, by the way. So mesh.set set triangles. Now we pass down an array of triangles that we want to set. So new int, and we can do that, and we also have to tell it which group it belongs to. And this starts with 0, the top one starts with 1. Okay, so oops, not that. We're going to start with the 0, and here we pass down the first 2 squares because we want that in a group. And then we need to do another one, and this is going to be the second group, so 1, and then we want to create our last there. And we can go ahead and remove this version of our triangle. Now what this is going to do is this is going to apply the correct materials onto the correct triangle. Okay, now let's go ahead and play this. Oh, play, come on. Oh, and it seems like I did it the opposite way. As it turns out, this one was 1 and this one was 2. The easy way to change this is if you go in your materials, you can see cube and then wood. That's the reason why it changed it. So the cube element is 0 and the element 1 is 1. Okay, so if we actually just go here, we can just change this to 1 and 0. Alternatively, what you could do is you could just switch these around. That would also work. Okay, now if you play this, and we have our companion cube on the right and the wood texture exactly how we want it, and we have nice lighting. In fact, if we create point light, you will be able to see how good the lighting on this is. So it's just the normal Unity default lighting, so it actually works as best as possible because Unity uses the normals to calculate the lighting. And there you go. Obviously, if you're using your own method of lighting, I guess you can. That will still work because we're just setting the normals. Okay. So what else? I'm just thinking if I missed anything that I should tell you guys before I quit this video. So remember, vertices, normals, UV, and then apply everything to the mesh, and then you create the triangles. The triangles always come last because that is when you actually render the object. Okay, right now here this all data is just stored, and basically nothing really happens to it until you create the triangles, and then it actually renders it. And we actually apply the materials last because we want to apply the materials after we create our triangles. We don't want to apply them before. I think that is it for this tutorial. It's 24 minutes, so it is getting a bit long. But let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.